Hi, Leah May Wright here, checking in to give you a progress update on Destined for Deanna. As you know, this is a book that I've been meaning to put out for a while. It's taken me forever to write it, and I apologize for the delay, but it's spiraled into much more detail than I ever imagined, and what I thought would be, a cute little office romance with some kinky elements has turned into something much more emotional and dealing with trauma, and just it's going to be a great book, but it's taken me a while to get it there. So I just want to give you an update on the progress. I have some differences in this book from my other books, in that I have separated it into 7 parts. Sorry, I just couldn't fit their story into a 3-act play. But I hope that this will help you to really get to know these characters and fall in love with them. So part 1 is their initial meeting. You may have heard some allusion to this in my other books, where Deanna and JJ met years ago. And chapters 1, 2, and 3 are part 1, and it covers quite a lot from their initial meeting to when they break up the first time. It's a week long in those 3 chapters, and it's fairly steamy, but I think it sets the tone for what's going on with those 2 characters and why they've felt such a connection but couldn't be together. Part 2, the reunion. This is the week of Anthony and Kay's wedding, where JJ and Deanna see each other again for the first time in 3.5 years. So it's a little bit of how they deal with reuniting, and not necessarily letting anyone else know that they're as close to one another as they actually are. So you'll get to see a little bit of behind the scenes, or different points of view from when the wedding was done in Wrestling with Randy, and even in Bobby's Bride and Adoring Amy. I touched on that wedding week. So, but you'll get to see yet another perspective of that wedding week, and it's just really to give you an idea of how they get back together, but don't necessarily want anyone to know that they're hooking up every once in a while. And that covers chapters 4 and 5. I had more in there, but my word count got crazy, so I actually had to cut out some of that. So you'll see that in their bonus scenes book, though, so you can expect more of that part 2 in the bonus scenes book. Part 3, the second breakup. Well, you know what they say about romance, we always have to have a 3rd-act breakup. Well, this is your 3rd-act breakup. They're seeing each other over the holidays after a year of hooking up in secret, and JJ is ready to bring them back out to the family and to really progress their relationship and move on as a couple. And Deanna is still not sure she can do it. So, yeah, poor JJ. He's a true golden retriever, and he gets his heart broken here. But it doesn't last long. You get chapters 6 and 7 there. And then we go to part 4, the takeover. This is JJ's grand plan for winning Deanna back. He goes to Oklahoma, where Burleson Incorporated takes over the company where she works. And it's a lot more interesting. This is where the bulk of the story starts. This is where they're really coming back together. They butt heads at first. They have the sexual chemistry explodes. It's going to be an interesting few chapters. You get chapters 8, 9, and 10 there. And then we move to part 5. They've come to an agreement. They have a new contract. And now JJ's going to begin the seduction. And it gets really, really steamy for chapters 11, 12, 13, and 14. Valentine's Day had to be broken into 2 chapters. It was such a great weekend for them. Also have chapters 15 and 16 So you get quite a lot in this section. Part 5 is probably the longest section of the book because you go from chapter 11 to chapter 15, or excuse me, chapter 16, before we get to part 6. And I was tempted to actually put chapter 16 in with part 6 because the confrontation actually kind of starts in chapter 16. So, well, they've had this great Valentine's weekend. Right after that, disaster strikes. Her ex broke out of prison. So they go into hiding. Part 6, I had to jump again. I had to skip a couple of scenes that I had planned, a whole other chapter that I had planned between chapter 16 and chapter 17, simply because I ran out of words. And I'm limited in in my word count simply by how many pages I can have in a print book based on the size. So we've got a chapter there that I skipped, but it was really kind of repetitive, so I figured that was probably okay to skip. I didn't even bother writing it. So sorry, you won't get to see that in the bonus scenes, but it's just kind of, yeah, it was too repetitive, so I didn't think we needed it. But it's while they're holed up in a cabin with bodyguards. So they can't really do anything. It's literally them just sitting there working. So you're not really missing anything. But chapter 6, the confrontation, this is where the action happens, where Deanna is tired of JJ insisting that she stay holed up in the cabin to stay safe from her ex, and being a strong, independent woman, she's ready to go back to Tulsa. She wants to go back to work. Working remotely is just not working for her. She wants to go back home where she can have her hobbies, where she isn't just sitting there bored watching the bodyguards patrol the perimeter. It's, no. She's ready to go home, and she's not going to let her ex being out of jail put her life on hold any longer. She's ready to go back. So that's really the start of the confrontation. That's what you get in chapter 17. Chapter 18 is when the ex makes his appearance. And chapter 19 is a little bit of the aftermath. So that was probably the hardest section for me to write, simply because that is trauma. I'm not going to lie to my readers. I want to warn you. She gets kidnapped. He attacks her. He has her handcuffed to a bed. He beats her. He tries to rip her clothes off. It was the hardest thing for me to write, but it's pivotal in that she is able to take the lessons that she's learned through her relationship with JJ and disassociate from the horrific things that are happening to where she doesn't remember them after, because she's able to go into her head and connect with her soulmate. And it's kind of a way for me to deal with some of my own trauma. I don't know that mental health professionals would actually recommend this method for healing, but it works for me. It's helped me heal, so hopefully it will help her as well. Maybe some of you. And then finally, we get the recovery, aka the beginning of their happily ever after for part 7. And this is where you have chapters 20, 21, and the epilogue. And the epilogue you're getting now is actually what I was planning to use for chapter 22, and then what I had originally written as the epilogue is now moved over into the bonus scenes book. And I have written everything through chapter 21 and probably about a third of the epilogue so far, the new epilogue so far. So I'm getting really close to getting it finished. I have been editing as I go, so parts 1 through 5 are fairly well edited. They still need to go through a final edit. And then part 6 and part 7 obviously will need to go through several rounds of editing before I can actually put the book out. But it's getting much closer, so I wanted to let you know where we are, and hopefully you'll be seeing this at some point in either June or July so that you can finally read it. And it may take me a little bit longer than that to get their bonus scenes book out, because I do have to go back and write a couple of the scenes that I skipped writing because I knew they wouldn't fit in this book, so I wanted to put them in the bonus scenes instead. So I still have to go back and write those. And like I said, probably about 2/3 of the epilogue that's actually in the book. So it's not going to be immediately. Sorry. I wish I could give you a specific date, but I just don't know how long it's going to take to finish this writing and also get it through editing, because that can take that can take as much time as the writing sometimes. So anyway, just a heads up, it's coming, and it's coming soon. It's just taking me longer than I had hoped, but keep checking at leahmaywright.com/destined dash for dash Deanna, and eventually you will see links there for where you can order your copy. Have a great day.